Whoa, we are back for the 29th interview episode of Home Advantage. Today, Jude Swisher brings on Joey Mckenna, an Ohio State graduate, multi-time All-American. Joey is an all-around great guy, great wrestler, and this is an awesome interview. They go over a few things. They mostly talk about Joey's experience in freestyle wrestling and kind of the cultures surrounding freestyle wrestling around the world. And obviously, a lot talks about the effects that the recent coronavirus has played on Joey Mckenna's career and life. So I hope you guys enjoy this interview. It's a great one, and hopefully we'll be getting more content at you guys after this. But let's roll the interview.
All right, hey, Joe, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Jude? Good to be on, man.
Doing really, really well. I'm glad you can make it. Like you just said, it's Corona season. We got a lot of time on our hands, so at Home Advantage, we're gonna try to crank out as much content as possible and hopefully get some great interviews out. So, how have you been? How is this Corona stuff affecting you?
It's been a good 2-week journey, man. I feel like just every day, something new comes out. I was at the Big Ten championships, and then the few days later, the NBA season gets canceled, and then just that snowball effect of events on event cancellations, event postponements, and it seemed inevitable until finally the Olympic trials got postponed. So, trying to take it day by day up until that point, it was like, make and do, trying to make wise decisions in the, like you said, Corona season. But, it's like nobody really knows what you're supposed to be doing or not doing besides definitely social distancing and self-quarantining. So, I guess at this point, it's nice to finally have some type of, so-called definitive postponement where, you can just kind of be at peace with the whole mental side of things, at least, of all the uncertainty that's been going on. With the Olympics being postponed. So now it's like, all right, we got more time, and take that with what you can and let God control the rest right now. Keep the things that you're believing in and enjoy this time with the people you can, the loved ones you can, and stay safe.
Right. Just like focus on controlling the things you can control.
Exactly.
Truthfully, if we can't control any of this Corona stuff, it's just the situation we're in right now. So let's make the best of it. Did you think, like, when you first heard about coronavirus and it started gaining popularity, did you really think that it was gonna affect you specifically as an athlete? Did you think it was gonna, cancel NCAAs, cancel Olympic trials, postpone Olympics and things like that? Did you think it would affect you?
Again, I'd say, like, initially, no. Back in January, when I guess was the first time we kind of heard about it. But as time progressed, just more caution was taken, more precaution, and things just got worse, right? It's a virus. So over time's the factor right there where it's going to be able to spread. So, if you had asked me 2 months ago, I'd be like, no way. But, it just became predictable almost. It's like,
right.
Hey, not even predictable, just inevitable. And there's nothing. I don't know who could have predicted this.
I know, right? We were about to have an extremely exciting postseason. NCAA, it is all going to come down, and then it's like, nope, never mind, just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it? What about your training situation? Is this affecting how you train at all, or?
The past 2 weeks, as things started getting quarantining, places shut down. I'm at the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center, PRTC, down in Philly. So both Penn and Drexel campuses were shut down, so we weren't able to wrestle there. So we had to kind of put together a little contingency plan. We reached out to some clubs and some people in the area that we knew had potential mat space, and being really selective with where we were going in. We went up to New York RTC for a day or two before, it just seemed unsafe. So really, the more quarantined we could be, the better. So for the first 2 weeks, still getting the work I needed in, in terms of being on the mat, getting my lifts in, but again, just had to do a lot more logistically and more planning to really get it in. You really see how lucky we are as RTC athletes to be able to train at these places with everything we need. And then now it's like, yeah, I mean, we don't have the same access to a gym, a mat, and workout facilities. You got to kind of expand and really see how that wrestling network helps you out. I mean, because that's kind of what it was. People just wanted to lend us a hand and be open for us, as things got canceled, and the hope was still there for the Olympic trials and the Olympics, up until that certain point. So just making do. And, at this point, with it being postponed right now, there's really no rush to put myself at risk and getting to a room. I mean, I'm still doing my own at home, just like everybody else is probably doing. I'm still doing what I feel like is necessary. But yeah, definitely taking this time. It's actually my sister's birthday today. So we're spending that. I live with her down in Philly here. So we're going to spend that in quarantine, unlike a normal one. And just, take it day by day, man. Again, like, we don't know what proposed dates, if it's going to get worse. We just don't know. So just got to focus on what we can, keep strong faith, and believe that, it is going to get better at some point. I do truly believe that.
Hopefully. And, so it's interesting that we're, as a nation, we're really kind of experiencing this, and all the athletes who are going to be trying to competing post, for an Olympic title, we're now like affected by like, how do we find a place to train? How can we stay consistent and things like that? And it's interesting because my perspective is that we almost take it a little bit for granted how good our training situation is, the RTC programs, and how we have lots and lots of coaches and lots of partners, and we can have a consistent, training schedule. Whereas in a lot of foreign countries, they don't have this kind of stuff that we have, and, but they do make do, right? they have, there's great wrestlers from all over the globe who don't have the nicest facilities and don't have the best training partners and things like that. So, it's just something to think about and be like, well, if they can do it, we can do it too. That's just what I've been kind of dwelling on. But you mentioned the Penn RTC, and how long have you been there now?
So this was my first season there. I came in September is when I started there, and it's been fun. It's been fun to see the two college programs get better. Had a bunch of qualifiers for each for nationals. Unfortunately didn't see how that turned out. But so I've been in Philly for about half a year now, about 6 months, and it's been great. My training situation is great. Mentorship, leadership, career opportunities, you name it. I mean, I just feel like being in this area, I'm closer to home, putting myself in this, Philadelphia wrestling ecosystem. There's so much going on. But then again, at the same time, it is tough right now. Right now, we're just trying to, live life.
Right.
Life quarantined, and see how we can really still be effective as a program and organization. Of course, probably a bunch of other RTCs are going into some recruiting phases, so it gives us time to really step back and be like, all right, how are we going to move forward with this? We got another year, and it's more time to push. But PRTC, again, it's great. Coach Slay has been awesome. Lee Zach's one of my main training partners, Dan Valamont. And then, just seeing a guy like Rich Perry weekly, man, and just how far he's come. And, just being a testament to the work that God can do in someone's life. And, it's inspiring to see a guy like that and train alongside a guy like that. Definitely fuels me each and every day. And again, even in like a time like this, like where things are just taken away from us. I mean, things were taken away from a guy like that. without any forewarning. And, he's coming back stronger than ever. So just gives hope, a lot of hope in times like this. And no other family I'd like to put myself around right now than down in the Philly ecosystem.
You wanna talk about your decision to move to the Penn RTC, from where you were training at Ohio, and after college you moved on out. So how did you come to that decision, and how did you come to decide to wrestle at the Pennsylvania RTC?
Yeah. So towards the end of my high school career, I had made a few age group world teams, and then so that's where I really had first desires to wrestle internationally. I made those world teams, and like people say, when I was able to wear USA across my chest, it was a different type of pride and honor and respect to just be able to represent your country overseas. So that's where I started really getting the aspirations to continue to wrestle post college. So after last season, I didn't achieve any of my collegiate goals, unfortunately. Like a lot of people, had goals to become a national champ, but I knew that I wanted to compete, so it was a no-brainer for me. And I just kind of explored offers out of high school. I went out to Stanford, came back a little more east to Ohio State, and I always saw my life settled down on the East Coast, just eventually in the future. So I figured no better time to kind of start looking, and I just felt that the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center had a lot of value that I could gain from it, and that I could offer it. Like I had mentioned before briefly, just different opportunities. Coach Schley has been a great mentor for me. There's a lot of fellowship. Faith is a big thing in my life. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer, and just being under his leadership has been great. It's closer to home. It's 2 hours from home. There's potential for, I want to go to grad school in the future, mm-hmm. and I'm hoping that, I could make it happen at a place like this. I don't know what my life's going to look like in 5 years, but, I have a plan, very fluid. God can put my heart wherever he wants, but, just I thought holistically it was the best decision for me as a person, and just with the goals that I've had. So was
it tough for you to move on from Ohio State?
It was. They had given me so much in my 2 years there. It was such an honor to wrestle in front of Buckeye Nation and be a big time college athlete. But in our lives, people feel led to do different things, and right. Just where kind of my life was headed, I feel like I want to pursue these potential career, professional, schooling opportunities in the future that can, hopefully set me up for later in life.
Yeah. So hey, let's start at the beginning. All right. We'll just take it, from the beginning of your wrestling career. Where did you grow up, and where did you first get introduced to wrestling?
So I'm New Jersey born and bred. I started wrestling at the age of 7. My uncle drove me up to this club called Pascack Hills Wrestling Club. So I started wrestling there at the age of 7 because my cousins had wrestled. They're 9 and 7 years older than me. So they had wrestled. So then I got into wrestling at 7 years old. My first year wrestling didn't go too well, but then my second year wrestling made it to the state finals. I actually wrestled Anthony Ashnall in the finals of the states, but at that time he had been a kid wrestling state champ already, so I was like super excited. Second year wrestling, state finalist, it was a big deal. And then same thing, third year wrestling, made the state finals again, lost to Ashnall. So just was able to wrestle with these guys at a high level. So from there, I started being exposed to national level tournaments. I went to Tulsa Nationals, all the World of Wrestling roller production tournaments, Dixie Nationals. Sheesh, you name it. I feel like I can't even remember. Virginia Duels, Wildwood Duels, you name it. I wrestled it all. But yeah, so just born and bred in North Jersey, and then it was all folk style up until I kind of became of age to be a schoolboy. I got called up by one of my coaches, and he had asked if I wanted to join the schoolboy team, if I'd ever wrestled freestyle before.
Uh-huh.
I was like, no, never have, but look, it's wrestling's wrestling, right? So might as well just get on the mat. So I started going to a few freestyle wrestling, freestyle Greco practices, went to schoolboy duels, went 1-7 in Greco my first time, and then went 7-1 in freestyle. And I was like, dang, well, this Greco bit, that's pretty tough, but I like freestyle stuff. So fast forward the next year, my second year schoolboy, ended up winning the Triple Crown in all three styles. So I won freestyle nationals, freestyle, and Greco. My first 2 years cadet, I was cadet Greco champ both years. I didn't place my first year in freestyle, and then my second year I took 5th in freestyle. And then, it's funny. I was a 3-time Fargo champ, all in Greco. I never won freestyle, 2-time runner-up. I lost to Corey Clark and Pico. So some top-level guys, too. Right. But, it's funny because now here I am, obviously wrestling only freestyle. And, if you looked at my past results, besides, world teams and things like that in the recent years, if you looked at back then, you could have argued I was better at Greco.
That's awesome. Hey, you never know, though, because you could pull a Dan Dennis and come wrestle, do some Greco maybe after your freestyle season's over. That was crazy. So Dan Dennis was our first ever interview on our podcast. That was last year. So we've just hit our 1-year anniversary, and we had to interview Dan Dennis, and he came on our show to drop the news that he was going to wrestle Greco at the U.S. Open. And we were like, what? We had nobody expected it. And I think he went like 0-2 or 1-2 or something like that. But, it's just something to think about. And like you said, wrestling's wrestling for the most part.
And I think it's important, especially as a kid. Ever since, like I said, since I was a schoolboy, I had wrestled both styles. Really up until I made the junior world team my senior year of high school. So my senior year of high school, I made that summer I made the junior world team, and that was the first year that I only competed in freestyle. My junior year of high school, I won Fargo again in Greco my junior summer, and then I took second in freestyle to Pico, and the following year is when I made my first junior world team. And I just think developmentally, definitely helped me a lot more for parterre, things that are really important because, Greco guys, they wrestle forced parterre, so they have to go top and bottom. So it's definitely more common for them to do that. And I just, a lot of techniques, positioning, things like that transfer over really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so I wrestled a decent amount of Greco over this last freestyle season, just because my goal was to qualify for the regional training center program. And, I thought I just in case it didn't work out on the freestyle side, I was like, I really want to try to qualify through Greco. I ended up qualifying through the freestyle side, but after every practice, even though they were freestyle practice, I just take 15, 20 minutes and work with my coach, Brad Pataki, through a lot of Greco positions. And it's really interesting because there's so much more to it than really meets the eye. Like it's a lot of little battles that you don't really expect, you don't really see when you're watching it through a screen or even in person, like you don't see it as much, but like to actually realize how much of Greco is just little tiny positional chess matches. It opened my eyes, truthfully. And I really enjoy doing Greco. I'm not good, but it's still fun, right?
I had a teammate at Ohio State, Fritz Sherrill, and he wrestled Greco at like universities and senior level and stuff. And I was never afraid. I'd say I'll go Greco match with you just to get him ready for his competitions as well, because you can always learn things positionally, like you said. I mean, just really good things to focus on. If you truly just love the sport of wrestling. So
yeah, no, I agree. So, did you love the sport right off the bat? Like when you started doing it, did you have a conscious moment when you're like, man, this is for me?
I mean, for a guy like me, I think I saw success pretty early. So, I can't tell you for sure, but I think a lot in the beginning of my career, I liked wrestling because I won a lot, right? We like things because we're good at them. Right. But I think through time is when I really started gaining my love for wrestling. And when I really actually took a step back and reflected on the reasons why I wrestle, I'm like, I'd made a lot of decisions in my life based on wrestling. I decided to go to Blair Academy to wrestle. I decided to go to Ohio State to wrestle. And, when I really reflected on decisions like that, that's exactly, I was like, that's the route. It's because I love it. Clearly. I mean, that's the reason why I've continued. We all get knocked down. We get back up. I mean, it's the same reason why guys continue to wrestle now. I mean, a lot of guys love it. It's the same reason why guys go into coaching, why guys continue to follow wrestling. They go to the Big Tens to watch. They love it. I mean, right. We all know what wrestling does, and it's just brings people together too. The wrestling community, it's a small niche community, but it comes together. So I think just the same idea goes.
So here's a question, a little bit tangential, but did you know that you could be like a national finalist, like a top level Division I guy, or did it just seem like a natural like step in the ladders? You're like, yeah, I won all these tournaments going up through youth and middle school and high school, and now I'm just gonna go and be the best in the country at Division I wrestling. Or did you have to make an active decision, like this is what I'm training for?
No, you have to make the active decision. I have a lot of teammates even from high school at Blair that were really good. They won everything, and a lot of guys that just didn't maybe turn out in college wrestling. Right. And it's a decision you make. Everybody's tough. There's transitions that you have to make from high school to college wrestling, and one is that everybody's tough. People aren't going to bow their head down for you. People are going to wrestle you hard for the full 7 minutes. And, that's just something that you're going to have to get used to. Just because you won the Ironman does not mean you're going to be a national champ or you're going to win the Southern Scuffle or win the Midlands. Still a lot of hard work. And it's a conscious decision you got to make. That's why on the opposite side, right, you see a lot of guys that didn't do that maybe didn't win everything growing up and that do succeed very well in college and the international level, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a precursor to the next. I mean, yes, if you're looking results based, you could see maybe there's a ladder that you climb, but I mean, I think just as a wrestling mindset, you shouldn't even have that ladder based trajectory. Right. I mean, you should be worried about just your growth and your love and your passion for it before you shouldn't be comparing yourself. Oh, did I win this? Did I win this? Did I win this? There's plenty of guys. I mean, Jamil Kelly, a coach of mine, never an All-American, second in the Olympics. There's just so much that one does not mean the next. I can't tell you somebody right off the top of my head, but definitely guys that, I mean, Anthony Cassar, one-time state champ in New Jersey, one-time national champ. I didn't opportunity one time. Mm-hmm. So there's so many things. It's a conscious decision that these guys have made and that guys make. And it's not a conscious decision like, hey, I'm gonna win everything. It's, hey, I'm going to work hard and, see what this disciplined and focused intentional work can do for me. And it's just a good approach to have to life too. I mean, anything you do, you should approach with intention and focus. That's kind of how I try to live my life now. Especially as a recent college graduate who has the goals that I do and the things that I do want to pursue.
And it's interesting because so much of our sport and so much of like the common mindset is very results based. That's how you judge yourself. A lot of kids, they're like, all right, I'm only this good because I've only won these tournaments, and they're like, this guy is probably better than me because he's won these tournaments, and so they pay a lot of attention to rankings and tournament results and things like that. Whereas really to succeed in wrestling, it's about throwing all that aside and trying to become the best you can be, not only on the mat but off the mat too. Trying to become the best human being that you can be. And a lot of that's lost because a lot of kids are, the majority of kids don't really care about wrestling as much, and they want to, they do it because maybe they get some okay results, or maybe their dad makes them, or maybe, who cares? But, the people who truly buy in and truly love the sport and truly dedicate themselves to growing, daily. Like, so I wrestle at the M2 training center, and something we say there is 1% better every day. Let's get 1% better. Little steps. My buddy Sam Herring, what he likes to talk about is just being in love with the process of wrestling, not necessarily the results and not necessarily, what comes of it. But if you truly love wrestling, then you love the process of becoming a wrestler and becoming a good wrestler. And so, keeping it in perspective and loving the process of becoming better at the sport is all things that people just have to really discover for themselves, because, you hear people talk about it, maybe on a podcast like this one, but you can't even really apply it to your life until you make an active decision to.
Yeah.
Discover it for yourself. So.
It's good stuff, man.
So, when did you first have senior level aspirations? Was it after you made your cadet teams?
I think so. I think there are a lot of guys right now that, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys that as a little kid you dream of being an Olympic champion and a world champion.
Right.
I wouldn't say those. I don't know if I was exposed to that type of wrestling just like that. I mean, I think when I was a kid too, just the international stage wasn't as prominent. I don't know. I just feel like I wasn't exposed to it as much, and I didn't see that. So when I saw it in high school and I started like watching international wrestling and all, I think that's when I really had. And yeah, like I said, once I made that cadet world team after my sophomore year of high school, I was like, oh yeah, this is what, I definitely want to do this.
Right.
So yeah, I was. I wasn't one of those kids that did have it as a little kid. But yeah, it did come later, and man, got another year to work.
Yeah.
With it. So I'm still pretty excited.
And the other thing is, like, you're only, I don't know how old you are. I'm 16, so that's only maybe couple, not that much older than me, but still, it's like it's a whole era shift, right? Because when you were coming up, Flow still wasn't the booming company that it is now, and now anyone with a phone could go search up wrestling, and there's going to be tons and tons and tons of technique, and there's going to be tons and tons of matches. And so anyone who wants to be a fan of the sport, it's very, very easy to do now. I remember talking to Eric Thompson about, his senior level aspirations and things like that. And he said when he was a kid that he didn't even know wrestling was in other countries and that, the first match he saw was, it was the Olympic finals, and they watched it on a teeny little, like, I don't know, little computer, and it was terrible quality. It was off some weird Russian streaming site, and it was all, he didn't really know what was going on. But now, I can type in Sadulayev versus Kyle Snyder, and it will come up, and I can watch the match every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy time, and the thing with technology, it's only going to get faster and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to be able to this wrestling will impact more and more people. So
yeah, I mean, kind of what you said just opened up a new can of worms. But yeah, I mean, just the exposure of freestyle wrestling is much greater now. And but you look at, I mean, other countries. I was in Krasnoyarsk, Russia for the Euregan this past January, actually. And man, the amount of little kids at this tournament, like they were coming up to us because they saw that we had a USA flag on.
Uh-huh.
They would come up to us and they'd be like, Jordan Burros, Kyle Snyder, Jordan Burros. They're looking for these guys because they're like, Buvaiser Satiev. They're like, that's Satiev, like sitting in the stands. They know
They're
all
fans,
these guys. Yeah. And I mean, granted, they only wrestle freestyle. They're in there drilling arm throw steps, and you're like, wow. I mean, these kids are like 6 years old, and those videos you see, they're real, but they have that exposure to freestyle wrestling. Their coaches are guys like that. Right. But then again, I mean, the Russian culture just likes wrestling more, right? And wrestling is their national sport. So things are a lot different. But I mean, I do believe maybe if I was a kid, right? I mean, just that folk style freestyle disconnect, I wasn't even exposed to the freestyle until I was a schoolboy. And I mean, I don't even know what year that was, but it's still the 2000, Cale Sanderson was big when I was growing up.
Right.
Guys like that. I mean, those names were big just because they were guys that had done it. Where now, I mean, our USA lineup is like, and there were lineups like that as well. But I just think the like you said, flow, just the technical perspective, technology in general, everything's promoted the growth of wrestling.
What would you say the biggest difference between, wrestling in America and wrestling overseas is? Because you've traveled overseas and you've seen it and things like that. What would you think the biggest difference is?
I mean, just like we had touched on earlier, just the results-based culture. So again, while I was overseas, we were training out of this academy. They call it, and there's kids that go there and they're from 6-7 years old on, and wrestling is part of their curriculum. So like wrestling is, they go to school, this academy, and then as they get older, like wrestling is part of their curriculum, and then when they graduate, they become master of sport. That's like their degree. So it's just a total
wow.
It's just a total different system.
Right.
And this year was the first year that I saw this firsthand. So I was exposed to, I'm like, wow, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the whole system. But so with that being said, these guys, they're in these academies since they're 7 years old, but they don't actually compete until they're like 14 or 15. So these guys train for 6, 7, 8, they watch wrestling before they ever compete. So like when you see these videos of these little Russian savages, you know why? Because they've actually been just working on their technique, working on, and the camaraderie of these kids was crazy. I mean, they're all just running around jumping on each other, but all they do is practice, and then they go watch the Euregan, watching the best guys in the world. So like just culturally, it's so different, and the exposure, the people they're around. So I'd say, I mean, just the results based, like the amount of time that they train before they ever compete. We have people, our parents want us to be the next little kid state champion, and I mean, I was those things, but those things, like we said, they're not a precursor. Being a little kid state champion has zero correlation to being recruited in college, and vice versa. Your love for wrestling to go become an Olympic champion and like all of these things. So, yeah. So
do you think it hurts America, senior level, that we aren't as freestyle focused? Here's the question. Does America being primarily a folk style country, does that hurt our chances for medals at the senior level?
I don't think it hurts our chance of medals. But I do think, I mean, if we were just exposed to that style, just like the way those guys wrestle, they're more fluid. And I just think we would wrestle different. Right? We have, being America, we have this stereotype about us that we just wrestle really hard, pull on your head, get you really tired, which is true and does work to our advantage sometimes. But I think, as a country, if we could just be more technical focused, right, the whole level of the country, we'd be focused on just correct technique, better technique, and then just like in general, it all just percolates up, and just at each level, you just continue to get better. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it hurts us, but I do think it could help us because, I mean, just look at our past results. We have guys winning world championships, getting on the podiums. And, I mean, sometimes it's even harder to become the guy here in the U.S. than it is to be a world champion, as we've seen, could kind of argue in the past years with Dake, Burrows, and Taylor all being at the same weight for those few years. And now they're all world champions. So it's like, just it'd be a good maybe like perspective switch or like just a switch in focus of like what we look towards. But I think just freestyle wrestling in general will be better. But I'm also not against, like, I love the traditional view of folk style wrestling. I think it's iconic, and so I'm not like a get rid of type of guy, but I do think discussions are worth seeing how it could be better.
Exactly. Like folk style wrestling is very American, right? It's tough, and we focus on being gritty, and like a lot of folk style wrestling is really like, especially 20, 30 years ago, it was really, if you are stronger, if you are faster, if you are better conditioned than the other guy, then you're gonna win. If you're a tougher person. Whereas as we grow older and like the internet and things like that, and we see more wrestling, we can start to realize like, oh no, there's actually a lot of technique that needs to go into wrestling, and sometimes even the best conditioned, even the best athlete will not win against a guy with excellent technique. So obviously it's just something that's going to need to continue maturing. The idea is going to need to continue going up through the trickle down, I guess, from senior level all the way down to schoolboy and below. But true, I'm a big fan of folk style wrestling. It's it's fun, right? But and I like as a country being recognized as having a style, being recognized as like they're gonna keep fighting you the whole match, they're gonna wear you down, they're not gonna give up, and things like that. Where you go to, I'll watch freestyle events overseas, and guys will be like, they're down by whatever 8 points, and they're like, fine, I'll just throw a headlock, and they'll slip it, and they'll give up 2 points, and that's tech fall. They don't care as much. But everyone's different, and
each has its own. I mean, luckily, not many of the U.S. I know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
But not many of the U.S. guys at least put their head down like that.
Exactly.
Partners will give up. That is a fact.
I wonder why that is too. Maybe that's something due to our American practice wrestling style, a never give up mentality, something like that.
For sure, I agree. I think so.
What do you like better, freestyle or folk style? What do you have more fun doing?
Freestyle. Same reasons. I think it focuses more on technical objectives and positional objectives, and rewards the true better wrestler, I think. Right. Not every time, I'm not saying the better wrestler doesn't win the match every time, but it favors for sure those types of wrestlers.
It's an interesting perspective because it's a lot more positional than folk style is.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot better body awareness and be able to, have a better body control and to maneuver yourself. I like freestyle better too.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun. Here's a question. Can you talk to us about the first time you wrestled overseas and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I had a pretty memorable story. It was in 2012. I made the cadet world team, and I was wrestling 54 kilos. We actually had a really good team. Zane Rutherford won the worlds that year. We had a few bronze, but we had a really good team. Chance Marsteller, Garrett Ryan, Jack Bass, Tommy Thorne. Anyways, so I won my first 2 matches, and then like I said, it was an honor. It was really exciting. You step out on that mat in Azerbaijan for the first time at like 16, 17 years old, and it was awesome. I won my first 2 matches. I'm in the quarterfinals of the Cadet World Championships, and got first 15 seconds. Guy hits an illegal move on me. I end up dislocating my shoulder and then breaking my upper humerus. Ooh. So tournament got cut short. Had to fly home with a broken shoulder. Got surgery. Put me out 4 months, but that was my first time competing overseas. So I guess like from that experience, you'd think I'd never want to go back. But, that's where it's just a testament to how I felt and how much pride and honor that it was to just wear the USA across your chest and, represent something much greater than yourself. And so, yeah, to 2012 Cadet World Championships, broke my shoulder in the quarterfinals, had to fly home with a broken shoulder from Azerbaijan.
What move did he hit on you?
He hit a key lock, so he had a Russian tie. Yep, grabbed his wrist and went under, and my arm.
Oh, it went like that. Ooh.
Yep. So my arm, instead of keeping into the body, it went outside, and then just
oh my gosh.
So
wow, did that affect you at all in the future?
Luckily, I haven't had any problems with it since. I think I got pretty lucky that it was a bone break, because the bone heals way stronger than any type of ligament and, joint, all those things. So, yeah, the fact that it was a true bone break, I think, benefited me, especially recovery-wise as well. Once that bone is healed back, it's strong. Strong as anything.
Whereas, it's a ligament or something.
You could always have recurrent, people have those all the time. So
stuff. And then what all through college did you just have? You were all good. Did you have any injuries at all?
I think we've all had like minor injuries throughout college. Yeah, things that have kind of put us out, but no, nothing crazy. I mean, little knee tweaks here and there. Rib, shoulder, same. Just tweaks and taking care of your body. So
right. Yeah. That's what it's about. So, okay. Joey, tell us what does your post-Olympic plan look like? After, Tokyo 2021, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay another cycle or what?
Yeah, I mean, I plan on competing another cycle. Like I said earlier, I have graduate school goals and potential opportunities in the future. So, I plan on being in the Philly area, competing for a while, winning some world and Olympic titles, this quad and next quad. And then, hopefully getting some type of master's degree, hopefully a business degree, and pursuing some business goals. I'm interested in construction management and interested in any other really entrepreneurial opportunities. So hopefully after a few years of grad school, I'll have a little more ideas. But just continue, like I said, continuing to work towards something and, push myself past really anything. Just having high expectations, high beliefs, high goals, high dreams. I know I'm not going to achieve everything, but I think aiming big is, it's one of the core values at Penn, and it's one thing that I try to do every day of my life. So,
you said entrepreneurial, investments and things like that. What is this? Is this why you decided to, sign with Scraplife and join the Scraplife squad?
Kinda. I mean, again, it's another way to challenge myself, another way to better myself. Those are great guys. It's a brand that I believe in. Under Armour's some quality stuff, and Scrap Life. I feel like we got a good group of athletes to really help, really expand them into the wrestling world. There's two main runners of gear right now, you could argue, and our shoe just came out. Actually, I have a box sitting right in front of me with them right
Awesome.
here. So super excited to open that, especially here in quarantine. Those are things that get us excited right now.
Man, talk about, they say on the Instagram and stuff like that the shoe was designed by athletes. How much say did you have into like the designing of the shoe? How much did you input into it?
So they were already designing the shoe before I came on board, but yeah, I think so David and Bo, they had a lot of talk with the designer and the people that made the shoe, and their input was taken into account on everything in terms of stylistic feel, material, literally everything. So that's why I think those guys have their signature shoe. They were truly a part of the process. They were in those meetings every single time. But yeah, I mean, after wearing some samples, I'm not a guy that wears the shoe out of the box, especially like to compete or anything like that. But these actually feel like you can. You put them on your foot and like you actually feel like you can go. The first practice is always a little uncomfortable in a normal shoe. It's not like feels like you've worn it. I'm like, this is great. And I think that's a testament to exactly what the way it's being marketed. It really is designed by the athlete. David and Bo, I think those guys have been around a lot of wrestling, a lot of shoes. So I think they've done a really, really good job.
How well do you know the
box here, so I can give you a look if you want.
Okay. All right, I'm excited. Ooh, okay, that's a nice looking box. Live on the podcast. Oh, it comes in a bag.
It's a nice little bag.
Oh, all right. Oh, man, I'm a big fan of them. I think they look awesome.
So this is just the black and white version, pretty much all black with just the white Scrap Life logo, white bottoms, but looking fire.
It's a pretty shoe. I'm looking to, hopefully I'll get my hands on a pair of those someday. I think they look awesome.
Yeah, man, be on the lookout. They should be dropping pretty soon here. I know the pre-orders went out, and I've seen on on Scrap Life's Instagram that a lot of guys, a lot of people that pre-ordered them are starting to get them in. So
yeah,
I
should probably get a pair because my soles blew out in the regional finals this year on my competition shoes, and so I competed in the state championships in a pair of shoes I'd never worn for competition before. So that was interesting. But what I do, here's my little secret, is I just go on Craigslist, and anyone who's giving away wrestling shoes, I'll just buy them because I practice so much that your shoes get stinky and whatever. And so if you have a lot of shoes, you can just keep cycling them through, and then it's less wear and tear on one pair. And they don't even have to be nice shoes. They're just something to have on your feet while you wrestle. So I just took the nicest pair that I had, and I was like, all right, you're going to be my competition shoes for the state championships. And since I practice in them all the time, maybe once a week, and I practice so many different shoes, it didn't affect my wrestling. Because I know kids who have had their shoes, their competition shoes, get ruined, and then they're like, I can't compete because I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
But it's just being comfortable.
If your shoes blow and then you throw on the Ascend One, you'll be good to go, man. Felt like you were them all week in practice.
Oh man, that's exciting. That's awesome. So, okay, Joey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think it's about time to start wrapping it up. But before you go, is there any last thoughts you would like to leave our listeners with? Is there anything you want a little nugget of information maybe?
Nothing that I've already said, man. Just one thing that I want to leave you guys with is just, continue pushing yourself in this time. Reflect on the reasons why you wrestled, and just things that you want to get better at. Not all of us want to work every single day, to get better. But if you focus on the littlest things, something in your daily routine, daily life, you can always get better. Live intentionally, live purposefully, and stay happy. Stay safe during these quarantine times.
Yeah. Joey, hey, I really, really appreciate you coming on. This was a great interview. I really, really had an awesome time. Really got to learn a whole bunch about you. And, I followed you for a very long time, and I really appreciate all the things you do for our sport. So thank you, Joey.
No problem, man. Good luck.
Thank you. And with that, guys, I think it brings this interview to a close. Thank you so much for listening to, I believe this is 28th interview, might be number 29 of Home Advantage Wrestling Podcast. So make sure to, follow us on Instagram at HMA Wrestling. Follow us on Twitter. You can send us emails. We got an email. We got a website, lots and lots of stuff. And hopefully we'll continue producing lots of great content while we are all quarantined. So thank you so much, Joey. I appreciate you.
See ya.